Hello and welcome. I'm Ben, I'm a chef and a little bit of a wine geek. This is Jamie.
I drink probably as much wine as Ben, but don't know that much about it.
And this is Mike.
I never ever drink wine, ever.
And this is Christina.
I love wine a lot too, so much so that I made writing and talking about it my career, and I also make a little bit for fun.
An actual winemaker in the studio. Christina is our wine expert today and co-founder of Little Wine. She's here to share a few tips and tricks on how to get the perfect wine with the perfect food, because if you get that pairing right, well, what happens?
Well, it's pretty much heavenly.
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 Today, we've teamed up with Taste France magazine to understand and celebrate Vin De France. And I think, Christina, we're going to have our work cut out on Mike.
Oh, right. That is true, but
It's never usually this way round, is it?
Vin de France wine is a category or label of wine that gives winemakers the freedom and liberty to be creative and innovative without having to stick to traditional rules. It has a focus on grape varieties and taste, giving us normal wine drinkers great quality plus access to wine expertise in the simplest of ways. We're going to introduce you to 4 wines and then put you to the test. Lift the cloche on number 1.
Carefully. I mean, no big surprises.
it's white.
Get your nose involved. What should they be doing when they're tasting wine?
So far so good. Swirl, and yeah, give it a good sniff and let me know what you think.
Apple.
Oh,
I'm going to say gooseberry, but like white berries.
You're spot on.
Oh!
So this is Le Zeitgeist. It's Sauvignon Blanc 2021. It's a really young, fresh, zingy wine made from Sauvignon Blanc. So to start with, what you have there is some goat's cheese, a gooseberry chutney on a little cracker. Quite simply, what grows together goes together, and there's something so classic about goat's cheese, French goat's cheese, and the area that Sauvignon Blanc first started in.
I'm going with. Oh, that is lovely.
When you have those two elements together, it just brings out more of the flavours that you're already tasting from each element.
I think that sort of lightness of Sauvignon and that zestiness and those what we call primary aromas, which really are the fruity and sort of the more that gooseberry, even like a grassy element, means that typically I like to pair it with something that does have some kind of element of that in there. So in this case we have the gooseberry jam.
So theoretically, if you're getting the citrus, the apples, the berries, you would pair them with other citrus, apples, berries to amplify that?
Totally.
What do you mean by primary flavours?
There are different flavours that come from the fruit, not from the winemaking or from the aging process, but literally from what you're picking. So typically that is very fruity flavours like apple or something like citrus like lemon, or floral aromas, or even things like peppery aromas that you find naturally on the vine.
I have a question. Sauvignon Blanc, is that the grape?
Yes, that is the grape variety. Native to France, originally from the Loire Valley, they think, and now obviously known all around the world. Often with Vin de France, winemakers might wish to focus a little bit more on a grape variety or a style. It's a little bit more creative for them to be able to do that.
So Vin de France are like the hipsters. They're like experimenting, they're not bound by rules, they're just making cool stuff that tastes good.
Often, yeah, the artists of the wine world.
I like them.
That's cool.
Another really great thing about Vin de France wines is, sadly, with climate change, as it's happening, sometimes a winemaker will lose a certain amount of their crop or even an entire crop, but then they can buy grapes from another region to make their wine under Vin de France. So it's very creative.
Providing it is French grapes, made in France, beyond that, the winemakers have the creativity and the freedom to make wine that we just really enjoy. Next wine, carefully lift the cloche.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh. Whoa! That is 100% different from the Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
Come on, you must be able to smell that that's different.
I can. No, I don't know.
I was going to say sweeter.
Is it?
So the word sweet used in wine can be quite confusing, because you can either be smelling something that smells sweet because you're thinking of something maybe like coconut or yogurt, like a coconut yogurt, even though there might not actually be sugar in the wine.
Yeah.
Tastes smooth.
It is smooth, you're right.
Like peaches and cream.
Both of those things.
So with the first wine that you were tasting something that did have more acidity in there. And that's typically also a way that Sauvignon is often made, to sort of harness that acidity and freshness. Whereas here, you're tasting something that's definitely a lot more creamy and buttery.
So what you have in your second glass is 100% Chardonnay. And this is Le Champ des Étoiles. Again, same year, so it's still quite young, but it has been made from Chardonnay, and it has undergone some winemaking techniques which give it some of those secondary characteristics.
But the first one being that creaminess, and that is because the wine undergoes what's called malolactic fermentation. Malic acid that you find in the first wine, that very sort of apple-y acid, the same acid that you find in apples, is converted into lactic acid, which is the same acid that you find, in cheese, for example, and in milk. And that gives that soft, creamy feeling in the mouth.
That is it.
It doesn't naturally have as much of an aromatic profile. So that means there's a lot more for the winemaker to play with to impart certain flavours they may or may not want to be in the wine.
Aged in an oak barrel or something.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
it's tricking a bit.
So the very subtle use of oak here, that means you just get like a really gentle toastiness. Possibly also, a touch of spice.
You might even get a bit of vanilla. So what you have is a croque madame, Mornay sauce made with some French cheeses, between brioche, you've got some torchon ham, and it's finished with a quail's egg, and the whole thing with pan-fried in butter.
Oh wow, that is amazing. Oh, that is donkingly different.
Yeah, I'm getting more of the toasty bitterness than I was before I ate the food.
And I think when you said sweet before, and when you actually put it with something that's very savoury, it draws out more of the
savoury element.
More of the savoury element of the wine.
It's just very versatile. I always think with Chardonnay, it's the kind of wine that's pretty safe for food pairing. So if you're making a dish and you're really not sure what to put with it, often I like to choose a Chardonnay.
Oh, that's a good tip.
That is a great
That's
tip.
a really good tip.
Default Chardonnay.
Okie dokie. Would you like to try wine number 3?
Yes, please.
Number 3, lift the cloche.
Oh, sepia.
It's not very
like a
tasty.
2012 Instagram filter.
Yeah.
Oh, oranges.
Yeah, that's oranges.
There's definitely some orange in there, yeah.
Cheers. Do you know, it smells like Aperol. You know the bitterness of
Yes.
Yeah.
like bitters
Yes.
and copper. Like it
Really,
tastes
really
like
good
coppery.
point.
This is Le Jamel, and it is an orange wine, and it is a blend of many different grape varieties from all over France. As comparisons, all of the wines today are between sort of 10, 11, 12 pounds a bottle. So we've tried to keep them all very similar price points so you can get the comparison between them.
Disclaimer, yes, you smell oranges. It is orange, but there are no oranges in there.
Why is it called orange wine?
The colour.
It is simply because of the colour.
But the flavour you're getting is almost a pithy citrus.
Pith has tannin, and this wine has tannin, whereas the two other white wines that you had do not have tannin.
Okay, tannin. I've heard that word.
Tannin is one of those words that, sounds a lot like stuffy wine chat, but really when you break it down, it's something that you find in loads of things. So also tea, for example, when you brew a tea and you get that sort of
Yeah.
Almost drying
Yeah.
sensation on the tongue.
Yeah, that's
Well,
tannin.
like you mentioned earlier, cranberries, again, you get that sort of like thing. So in wine, typically when you have a white wine, you won't have tannins because the grapes are pressed directly. So all of the juice runs out and the grape skins are put to compost or sent to a distillery. Whereas orange wine is basically kind of like a white wine that's made like a red wine. So the juice stays in contact with the skins, and that means that you do get some of those tannins coming from the skins.
And what's really kind of cool with Vin De France is you can also pick multiple different grapes and put them together. So whereas the first two were single varietal, Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, this is a blend of 4 different grapes.
There are actually 5.
5?
Oh,
5 different
yes,
grapes.
Christina, get
Oh
in.
no,
Get
I missed
in.
one. Which one did I miss? Hang on. Viognier, Gewürztraminer, Muscat, Grenache Blanc.
And there's also some Chenin.
How did you miss the Chenin?
It is the Chenin.
A kebab.
Do you know what it is?
It's a kebab.
It's a thing on a stick grilled halloumi, you've got some pickled aubergine and a French Provençal olive tapenade.
On that. Oh, wow. Right off the bat, that is so delicious.
This is a fun dish, I think, because really you're looking at both complementary and opposing flavours here, I'd say. So here you really do get some aromas of roses, also a little bit of sort of honeysuckle. And I think that contrasts really nicely with the olive, because you end up with having something that's a bit more briny in the food, which gives a really nice salty tang to the wine, which has a bit more of that sort of floral element.
It's the most interesting pairing by far.
The thing that we haven't spoken as much about is structure in wine. And orange wine, because you have those tannins, obviously has more structure. And that means that you can really sort of play around a bit more with more structured foods. So maybe foods that have a bit more texture as well, or maybe foods that are a bit more like powerful, because you have that power in the tannins as well.
We need to move on quick before I forget that.
Would you like one more?
Yes,
One
please.
more.
And then we're getting tested.
Last one. We've had white, orange.
White, orange, red. It makes sense. Cheers.
Oh, I like that.
Tannins.
Yep.
It's punchy, it's really round, and like maybe it's the tannins now, but I like that it really tastes and feels like something.
Yeah.
Your teeth are blue.
Right.
Are mine.
Yours have been bleached, so it's probably just that coming off, isn't it?
So this wine is La Siren, and it is Grenache and Mourvedre. So 2 red grapes that both lend different properties to the wine.
There are tannins here, so probably medium to high. And Grenache is actually pretty low in tannin, but high in alcohol, so that gives you a bit of that body. And Mourvedre is pretty high in tannin, so it gives you that structure as well.
Okay.
Here you're really getting both red and black fruits. So the red fruits more coming from the Grenache, so almost that kind of plummy taste. And the black fruits typically coming from the Mourvedre, so blackcurrant, yeah, bramble, that kind of flavour profile.
Would you like to try some food?
Yes, please. Wow.
So a classic pairing with a red wine like this, you've got steak, beef, but you've also got some roasted confit Roscoff onions.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow.
I really like this pairing because it's really rich, indulgent, full-bodied food with really rich, full-bodied wine.
And I think that's important for a very flavourful dish so that you don't lose the wine. But it also does actually have surprisingly medium plus acidity in the wine. So that does help to actually cut through that a little bit.
I agree. It brings out a lot more of that allium-y flavour, like leaky type flavour, I find.
Is it fair to say that most red wines would have been through some kind of oak aging to soften the tannins, and therefore you get other dimensions to it as well as just the primary?
It
As a
can
rule of
be,
thumb?
not always oak, but often, particularly when we're talking about the south of France, people can use concrete quite a lot as well as a vessel, which actually has a similar kind of effect and you don't get the oaky taste. And then sometimes to do the opposite, to preserve freshness, people might use something like stainless steel. Within Vin De France as well, more and more people are experimenting with amphora, so clay vessels. All of those decisions give a slightly different impact on the wine structure.
For Vin De France wines, we're now going to set you 3 scenarios, and we want you to see which you think would best pair.
Is it going to be role-playing in each scenario?
There might be. Competition time, and remember there is a wine pairing badge up for grabs.
Remember, this is news.
That's an announcement.
And the thing with wine is it's very subjective, so whilst there's no wrong answer, if you get the same answer or can justify yours sufficiently to Christina, you will get the point.
There's no wrong answer, but Christina knows the right answer.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Scenario 1. You've got friends coming over for food at the weekend and you've planned an amazing dish. It's going to be served family style at the table, but you now need to scroll an online wine shop or a supermarket to find a wine to pair. Which one are you choosing? The dish is under the cloche. Have a taste. and then we'll tell you what you're enjoying.
Cheers.
What you've got is a saffron rice with apricot, fennel and olive, and then some lamb, which is lamb shank, slow cooked, and a little bit of lamb neck, plus a Dijon creme fraiche. Write down which wine you would pair with. You can have another sniff if it's going to help you.
Oh, it's just got really tense, hasn't it?
Okay, reveal your answers in 3, 2, 1. You have both gone with orange wine.
Traditionally, I would have said lamb is a red meat, and I would think that would go well with red wine. Having learnt more about the orange wine, the apricot that's in the dish with the lamb, actually, it didn't suit a darker, heavier wine in my mind.
But also you were getting the fruitiness from the apricot and the saltiness of the olives. So therefore finding a wine with equal structure, but without the deep richness of a real red meat, meant that I chose the orange wine over the red.
Wow, you guys rock. You could be sommeliers.
Is that a point?
That's more than a point. That sounds great.
That's like an A++. And I completely agree with you. I think also the aromatics of that saffron and the aromatics in the wine just go so beautifully together. And then the structure, for me, that dish and that wine, they're made for each other.
The second scenario
They had a lovely time.
is the very next day, and you're off for a lovely country walk, and you stumble across a beautiful gastro pub, and you order a delicious dish, and they have wine by the glass on the menu.
Oh,
French garlic butter sautéed prawns, courgette ribbons with lemongrass, coriander and chilli dressing. Head on, enjoy the flesh, but we encourage you to suck the head.
That phrase never gets easy.
no.
Oh, how do you spell this?
Okay then, reveal in 3, 2, 1. Ooh.
What have you done? What have you done?
Interesting.
Ooh, very
Oh.
interesting. My first choice would probably actually have been the Sauvignon,
Damn.
particularly because of the coriander. I think when you have that, and also the lemongrass actually, those very sort of aromatic flavours. But Chardonnay is not a bad shout. And actually that wine will go really well with that dish.
Yeah, that definitely works.
I really like both pairings, but the Sauvignon does edge it. So we weren't wrong, but we weren't.
We could have been righter.
We could have been righter.
Would you like one more chance?
Yes, please. Cool, this is the decider.
Last one, and here's your scenario. You've got a really special occasion coming up. It might even be a wedding. And you're at the venue going through the menu tasting, and you try the food and it's delicious. But then you need to describe in 5 words to the wedding planner what wine you would like to go with it.
That's 3 words.
Tannin.
Slow confit chicken. You've got pomme puree with a huge amount of Normandy butter through it. You've got some
truffle in it.
lightly braised vegetables, and then you've got a truffle hollandaise.
That hollandaise is ridiculous.
I'm not going to fit in my dress. Really rich. The sauce, really truffly, really buttery, delicious. The confit chicken is fantastic. Texture's amazing. I'm going full one way, and it could be the opposite end of the spectrum.
Jamie first, talk us through your 5 phrases. What is it you're after?
I think I'm looking for a red wine that is full-bodied, is earthy and smoky with hints of pepperiness, because I feel like the earthiness would play off the mushrooms, the carrots. I think red goes against the grain when it comes to chicken dishes. However, it's such a rich dish. I want the wine to stand up.
Full-bodied, structured, medium to high tannins, dry, and something like a Mourvedre. Basically stack up against the richness and the butteriness.
I personally would err towards the Chardonnay
That wasn't in my next one, I was so close.
because of the butteriness with that sauce. I think would just be like a hug in a meal. And that's kind of like very, yeah, a lovely feeling about a wedding pairing. And I also think the acidity in Chardonnay being slightly more prominent would also cut through the fat a little bit more. But at a wedding, you're also probably going to have white and red.
In absolute honesty, what would your second choice of the wines have
Honestly,
been?
the red.
Okay, so we're not we've learned enough to nearly get there.
A perfect alternative.
Great.
Christina, it's currently 1-1. Who do you think today should take the wine pairing badge based on their understanding of what we've discussed today?
I think just from your enthusiasm alone and also the amount of detail and thought that you've put into it, I would give you both badges.
Oh, take that.
Yes.
Another one up on Baz.
Yeah, definitely.
Great, thank you.
What we're hoping this whole video has done is to empower you with some wine lexicon to understand what it is you're looking for in a pairing, even if you don't yet know exactly which wine it is.
And I think the biggest lesson is that it's hard to be wrong, but when it's right, it can be really right.
Yeah. Personally, I've learned so much. If you guys want to learn the same, go and check out littlewine.co over on Instagram. There's loads of tutorials basically taking people like me to elevate their wine knowledge.
And of course, thank you to Taste France magazine and Vin De France for allowing us to go on this wine pairing journey. Their links are down in the description box too.
And if you want to find out more about the wines that we've been drinking, they're available from Virgin Wines, and that link is also in the very busy description box down below.
What I'm hearing is lots to explore in the description box.
Yeah, get stuck in.
And as with all wine tasting, the more you do, the more you familiarise yourself and make the association between that smell and something that you can put a name on.
Or like Ben, if you'd read the notes beforehand.